Hello, Michael. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on for an interview. How are you?
Just another beautiful day in paradise out here.
Awesome.
Just glad to be here.
So, quite a unique situation here. Usually, I invite people because I see their wins in the Wins channel. But in your case, I saw you were making some very insightful posts in the Amazon FBA channel, helping other students. And it seemed like you have a lot of experience. So, I would like to hear more about that throughout this interview. And to begin, what was your life like before joining the real world?
I'm actually about going to be turning 43 this year, so I'm about twice the age of the normal HU student members. Um, got my first job when I was 14, so back in 1994, repairing like lasers and barcode scanners. Um, and then I went into the United States Navy literally on my 18th birthday. So I turned 18 at boot camp. Um, Went into the Navy's nuclear power program. So I was running and teaching about the nuclear power plants for submarines and aircraft carriers. Um, did did time on the East Coast, West Coast. Got to see lots of Europe throughout a bunch of deployments. As all young people do, eventually got married, started settling down. When we had our my first son in 2010, and then about 3 months later, he passed due to what's called SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Um, since then, we've had three little girls that just are the perfect thing for my life. Really, got out of the Navy. Oh goodness, about 8 years ago, and joined the normal workforce, but just didn't quite sit right with me. Um, Military, like you're in the military long enough, it kind of changes your views and your perception on the world and jobs and everything. So being in the normal workforce just didn't quite jive with my attitude and personality anymore. So I started looking into alternative methods of making money. One of those alternatives was actually using what's called the post 9/11 GI Bill to get free college. And the whole time I was going to college, I was actually getting paid to go there, which is at this point the only way that I recommend college. Because they paid for tuition, books, everything, and then paid me enough money to cover all my bills for my family. Um, after I got my bachelor's degree, I started doing Amazon FBA. So that was back in, oh goodness, 2020. I think it was like right before the pandemic hit, that I started getting into that. Initially, I did what's called retail arbitrage, where you go into stores and find things that are like on clearance or that are very rare items and sell those for a profit. Um, but it takes a lot of time. So I wasn't very happy, like as a family man, spending 10, 12 hours a day shopping at the stores around town. So I switched from that to wholesale, which is my current business model for that. And I went from having to spend 10, 12 hours a day on my business to like maybe 30 minutes to an hour a day, which is just wonderful. Especially, I wound up getting divorced. So now I'm a single dad. I have my kids every other week. So because of that business model, I can spend all the time I want with my kids, and I just absolutely love that. When I was in the military and when I was getting started outside of the military, I didn't really get to see them and spend as much time with them. So for a single dad, like only having to work half an hour to an hour a day is just beautiful. My oldest right now is about to turn 12. And then my youngest is going to be turning 7 this year. So for my oldest two, I was still in the Navy when they were born, so they didn't see me as a lot, and I didn't see them a lot in that beginning stage when they're first developing their personalities. But then for my youngest, I've been a civilian the entire time, so I've gotten to spend a lot of time with her and actually be there for all those little moments that just make you happy to have experienced it, like the first steps, the first running, the first time they fall off of a swing, like just about everything. um I first heard about Hustlers University, oh goodness, I believe it was last summer. um at the time I was in a bunch of different Amazon groups, but they weren't really like big. Like it was small groups and a bunch of them. So it was kind of wasting a lot of time bouncing between stuff, different things. And when I found out how many different methods that our campus teaches, I was like, oh, well, that's even better. And the total price was cheaper than what I was paying for all these other groups. So I quit the other groups and joined Hustlers University, which is now the real world. And um, I joined into the Amazon FBA campus so that I could basically just reach out, network, and learn from the Professor TJ on the private label side of Amazon. And eventually, just because, I mean, with the military and teaching, I've always been just apt for answering people's questions. Um, so after he'd seen me answering so many questions throughout the campus, TJ offered to bring me on as a captain, which has been pretty interesting. I get to interact with almost every single Amazon FBA student. Uh, I think we're at about 42,000 right now. So I spend a lot of time now actually just in the chats, helping people out, making sure that they understand all the concepts that they need. And then when our chat's not really that moving or that active, I jump over to the HU main campus and help out people over there because they don't really get a lot of captains or professors in there in that general chat to answer their less specific questions on what to do, where to go, that kind of thing. Um, that's basically it. I think I covered about everything.
Oh, that's a lot to dig into there. A very eclectic life.
Yeah, yeah, it seems that way a lot of times, but it's a nice, relaxing life, which is very good.
So the first thing that came to mind is when you said the Navy changed your perception on work. So could you go a bit more into depth on that? Did it
Oh,
make the
absolutely.
yeah.
It's more about society as a whole. Um, Over the years, the newer generations just don't seem to want to work. Um, so even like whether they're in the military or not in the military, if you look out in the workforce, it's mostly older guys. It's people from my generation or from my parents' generation that are still working. And it's just the work ethic is lacking. And it's kind of a hard thing to deal with. Like when you're in the military, you've got ways to fix that and train them up properly so that they actually will work for a living. But in the civilian world, you really don't have a lot of options for that. I mean, obviously, if you hire them for a job and they don't do it, you can fire them. But now you're still short people, and so that still hurts a company or hurts your business, not having those people to fill those spots. And then the workers you have are overloaded with work, so they're not happy, and their work life balance goes to crap. Um, So, like going from military life to civilian life, it was really hard not having those same options to get people to actually do their job properly. And that was that was one of my harder issues, was going from a position where quality assurance and respect and work ethic are huge, and integrity was one of our biggest things that we focused on, to a regular job where it was just a cluster.
Mhm.
I don't really want to curse, but it was just a cluster. um, Dealing with the different personalities and whether they actually had a work ethic or not wanting to get rid of them because they were still doing some work, but wanting to get rid of them because their work was crap. Um, and then, given that I'm a disabled vet, so I've got PTSD and a couple of other issues. Um, some of those situations with those coworkers just didn't work out very well. It definitely doesn't help when you're like working with electricity to have a panic attack because of something else that's going on.
Mhm. So, with all your experience, with everything you've gone through, what is it that still draws you to be in the real world?
Uh, Honestly, my absolute favorite thing through my whole entire life, besides my children, is teaching. I used to tutor a bunch of other kids in my school when I was growing up, going through primary school. And in the Navy, I got to spend a very large amount of time teaching. I was even stationed at a command where the only thing I did was teach for 5 years straight. And that that allowance that I get to teach people in the Amazon FBA campus, or help people out in the main campus, teach them a few things here and there, is just, it's like the perfect thing for me throughout the day. Like, when the best feeling for with a teacher is when you're talking to somebody that just doesn't quite get something, and then suddenly it clicks into place after something you said, and the light bulb comes on and they suddenly understand exactly what everything was. And that moment, and making that moment happen as often as possible, is just very rewarding.
Mhm. And for you personally, out of all the groups you've said you've been through involving Amazon FBA, did you learn any new information from the real world in terms of Amazon FBA when you joined?
Oh,
How
absolutely.
and
Like
how
the
different is the information in the real world compared
um,
to outside of it?
well, the FBA information itself is consistent no matter which business model you're doing. Amazon FBA works the same way, whether it's buying stuff from a store, wholesale, private label, or stores online. Amazon FBA is the same no matter which way you go. But what I've been able to learn is how some of the other countries' paperwork works. Like for the UK and the EU, you have to deal with your VAT registration. Some countries, they have to sell remotely because their country doesn't have Amazon. So getting to deal with that kind of situation. And then also, I've gotten to learn a huge amount of information about private label and that whole process, dealing with manufacturers instead of wholesale suppliers. Um, so the amount of information that I've gotten off of Professor TJ has just been huge. And then learning it enough that I can then push that out, teaching it to the students that want to deal with FBA and private label, just helps like cement that knowledge in my mind for exactly how that process goes. So now I'm working on my private label stuff. I just haven't quite found a manufacturer that I'm happy with. when doing all that.
Okay. And your case is quite unique because you like teaching people. Usually, when people come into the real world and then I interviewed them, it's more a case of the community aspect pushes them to do better, pushes them to improve, to earn more. It's motivating. Did you experience any of those things, or is it just a different perspective for you?
For me, it's just that different perspective with teaching and being able to consistently learn new things all at the same time. Motivation, I've got plenty of that here with three kids in the house. Um, Things to motivate me to get to do better or be better. One of the first things that I did when I started working for myself and doing this business was to retire my mom so that she could get out of the workforce, especially during COVID with all the different restrictions. And since she's obviously older than most of our students' moms, she was actually at risk for COVID. So retiring her, getting her out of the workforce was a huge thing for me. And so the motivation is already there. It's just being able to consistently learn more and teach at the same time is just a win-win situation for me.
Right. So, from what you've seen out of the students, would you say for someone considering joining, if they're a younger person, let's say 13 to 14 years old, is it possible for them to make money through the real world?
Oh, absolutely. Now, especially with under 18, there's certain restrictions that they have to deal with and handle. Like with the e-commerce stores, sometimes they can't get like a bank account or get the payment systems to work because they're under 18. Amazon is like that. You can't actually have officially anyway an Amazon account for selling if you're not 18 and above. So for campuses like those, there's workarounds where you need a parent or guardian or grandparent, uncle, aunt, something like that who's over 18 to help you out with it. So some of the younger students struggle with that, trying to, because I mean they see the information and they're like, okay, yeah, I understand it. This is what I want to do, but now they've got to try to convince their parents to help them with that process. So some of them struggle with that, but in the copywriting or freelance campus, um, and then with some of the financial mastery stuff that we've got going now, it's a huge opportunity for them to learn, and it's the best time for them to better themselves because they haven't become an adult yet. They're still in that phase where they're growing and learning what a better person looks like and learning how to interact with other people. And so like the new classes that Arno is teaching right now are a huge bonus for that. If I knew the stuff that Arno is teaching right now when I was their age, that would have been a complete mindset shift before the Navy. I probably wouldn't have even joined the military, like just based on those opportunities that open up. Um, so for the younger ones, absolutely, it is a great place to be. They just might struggle with keeping their parents like on the take on it because that's going to be somewhere where they need their parents' support, and parental support is kind of a hard thing to get these days with the younger generation. They're not used to it. They're not, and their parents in most cases don't have like a financial background, so they don't understand like the processes that we're dealing with within the real world. So now you've got a 13, 14-year old trying to explain to their 30-year-old parents, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to make money online doing this. And the parents like, can that be done? They don't understand it. And like a lot of the times, like you'll see posts on Twitter and other social media platforms and within the real world saying, "Hey, succeed in private." And part of the reason we say that is that it's harder for the people around you, the brokies and the little matrix people that are programmed the way that society wants them programmed. It's hard for them to grasp some of these concepts and the freedom that you get from this stuff. And so when they find out, like, oh, hey, little Timmy is doing copywriting and he's making money, like, what the heck is up with that? So then they start giving little Timmy crap instead of supporting him. They start giving him crap about it. So for the younger group that succeed in private is harder to master because they need that moral support, they need that family support to properly succeed. I mean, they can still do it without it, right? There's plenty of ways that they can still make money through the real world, as an example, without parental help and consent and without the support of their peer group. Um, but those things just help so much better. So, what a couple of the younger kids that I've seen have done is actually helping some of their friends decide to join the real world so that they can succeed together and help prop each other up. Um, and for those kids, it's been a really good success because now they've got a partner that they're dealing with like throughout the school day and everything else that's there to support them in their struggle to get free of everything.
Mhm. Going back to what you said about honors lessons and similar teachings in the real world, I have heard a lot now that people who come into the real world, they're usually younger, and before they'd spend a lot of their time maybe playing video games or doing other unproductive things. And as soon as they come in, it's like they find a purpose, something to really dedicate their time to that is productive. And that's great to see. In
Absolutely.
your case, you learned that through the military, but in the majority of cases, it's not really feasible for people to go into the military. They prefer, doing other things. So it's something that they learn through the real world.
Absolutely. And it's a real game changer when you get lessons like that from the pros. Um, because it's helping you with so many different aspects of life, whether it's getting a girl or staying in shape, getting in shape for the people that are out of shape, becoming healthier in mind, body, and spirit instead of just focusing on one thing. Like there's plenty of people out there. They're like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and spend 4 hours at the gym every day, but that only takes care of one part of it, and so they don't really learn to take care of the rest of it as much. And that's more of the stuff that we're trying to focus on is like making sure not only are you going to be financially better, but that you're going to be health wise a better person. Like if you just focus on the things that we're teaching, your quality of life is going to go up as long as you understand and apply the things that you're learning.
Hmm.
And it's huge for these kids.
Yep. Since you've had a lot of experience throughout your life, I understand if the question I'm going to ask, maybe you might not have as much of an answer for it, but what would be the three biggest lessons you've learned from the real world? Or if you want, just give me the biggest lesson you learned, like one single one.
Wow, that is a good question. Um, one of them was definitely the whole prospect of succeeding in private. I've got a really huge family spread out across America, and so like they're always posting like all their stuff on Facebook. I don't really post on Facebook much at all. That's like the one social media platform that I just avoid like the plague. I just log into it to check on the rest of the family. And that succeed on private really, like, when you start looking at how even families, let alone just friends, interact on social media, um, succeed in private really strikes the right nerve. Um, because you could post whatever on your social media, and suddenly all these people that have nothing to do with you or that do have something to do with you are commenting and hating on it because you're trying to become a better person. And it hurts so much more when that's a long-term friend or a close family member. Um, and it's the way that people are programmed these days. Like, unless they grew up in a different country, they're basically all looking at things the same way. So when you start posting your success stuff on there, they've there's only three options that they come to mind, right? Either give you crap for it, praise you for it, or just ignore it. And the praise is so much rarer to get, especially if you're doing something that they don't understand. Which, in the financial world, like 95% of everything in the financial world, the average citizen, the average person in the world doesn't understand it. So that really struck hard with me. Um, one of the things that we go over that was a little harder for me was actually like posting things on social media in general. Because of course you want to grow an audience, you want to grow a brand, and you are that brand, whether it's selling private label products or monetizing your social media with like advertising money for YouTube and things like that. You have a brand that you're trying to build, and if you don't post on social media, then your brand isn't going to go anywhere. And that was one thing I kind of struggled with, because in the military, like we didn't have access to social media. Like, we're out in the middle of the ocean somewhere, we don't have internet, we can't we can't do any of that stuff. um, so most of the social media platforms, like when they actually started and blew up, I was on deployments, I was overseas. So like I came back from one deployment and Twitter was a thing suddenly, and hashtags was ever all over the place. And it actually took me a long time to figure out like the purpose of hashtags and all that. Um, so those things, those reminders, like, hey, post post your wins, post your information, like put yourself out there in the social media world, um, was kind of a hard thing for me to do. So I had to like start following like Cobra Tate and Tristan and Arno on social media, and just kind of learn how to present myself on social media based on how they were succeeding in that uh, method. Um, and then for the third thing, just really the sheer volume of information is just huge. I mean, with all the different methods we have, and we tell you up front, right? Pick one thing to learn and stick with it if it jives with you. Like, if you go into that campus and everything clicks into place or gets or is close enough that the professors and captains can get it to click into place for you, then just stick with that campus and master that before you go branching off into other things. And the reason that we say that is because there's so much information in each campus, let alone spread across all the campuses, that people kind of go into like a brain shock. Like, oh my God, how am I supposed to learn stocks, crypto, Amazon, e-commerce, all these different things at the same time? Well, that's the whole point. Don't. Pick one and just go with it. Um, So you get a lot of people that you have to deal with where like, oh, I'm doing all these different things and I'm overwhelmed. Like, yeah, of course you're overwhelmed. This is like five college degrees in one space, and you're trying to work on all five. That's stupid. Pick one. Um, but for the captain perspective, like I'm I get to jump into these other campuses, and it's kind of interesting. Like being on the Amazon FBA side of things, we do things completely different from the e-commerce campus. But I'll go into there and see like how they're promoting things, how they're promoting their Shopify stores and things like that on like Facebook ad campaigns. And that's still more knowledge that I can then take back to the Amazon campus and say, hey, this stuff works too. Don't forget about that. Don't just advertise on Amazon. There's a whole world out there. Uh, so just that ability to go through and look through the other campuses and kind of merge all that knowledge into one, um, is just awesome. I mean, obviously, like stocks and crypto, that has absolutely nothing to do with my wheelhouse. Um, so I pay attention to those just for like individual trades, throughout the day. But like the e-commerce campus, all of Arno's instructions on the main campus, and most of the campuses have like a workout section. So for getting that gym time in, getting your body right. And it's one of the interesting things is that each campus's workout section is a little bit different, right? There's no like one gym guru that's like, okay, everybody do this. Instead, it's an interesting mix of different people saying, hey, this works for me, or hey, this works for doing cool downs. This works better for doing like shoulders and neck. And it's another one of those instances where you can pick and choose, like, okay, this stuff really works here, and this stuff that this guy talking about is doing great. Um, it's just all these different ways to better yourself that are just spread out, and each campus is trying to better themselves as well as everyone trying to better each other and better, the whole group as a whole, and like spreading masculinity and actually advertising, hey, masculinity is a good thing. Um, so it's just kind of like an all around great place to be. I think I was probably
Yeah,
rambling throughout there for a little bit, but
that was great. I just wanted to say I'm very happy. Yeah, but that was a great answer. Do you see your life trajectory having changed after having joined the real world? And if so, where do you see it heading in 6 months to 1 year?
it's definitely changed. Um, One of the things that I missed most about being in the military was that ability to teach people, um, as well as the camaraderie, like having a group of people that you could literally talk about anything with. And the real world has that. Like I could just go into main campus and just vent about stuff all day, and I'm not getting crap on for it. Like people are like, oh, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried this? What about this? Um, and that combined with being able to teach again is just it, it it's kind of put my life back into the trajectory that I wanted it to be in when I got out of the military. Like I never wanted to leave that mindset, and I was kind of forced to leave that mindset. So with the real world, I can get that back, which is just phenomenal. Um, 6, 9, 12 months out, um, really is just going to be more of bettering myself and educating my children and educating real world members on just how to succeed in whether it's in life or financially, um, or just as an individual going through all this stuff that society throws at us. Um, Obviously, yeah, it'd be nice if my financials took a nice bonus in there. Probably going to be joining an, another of our groups uh, on down the line here towards the end of this year. Just because now my kids are getting a little bit less hands on, uh, so I'm not having to deal with their issues as much. Just more like helping them with their schoolwork and teaching them things here and there. So as that amount of time that I schedule with them kind of shrinks down, I'm going to use that other group to kind of expand out on my day and work and just continue bettering myself in all aspects of society.
Beautiful. Very happy with the interview. I'm happy to end it there. Before we do end, where can people contact you?
The easiest way, obviously, is through the real world. Michael on Michael dash Amazon FBA. I use the same at for Twitter right now. So Michael at Amazon FBA. And then also Hustle Flow on YouTube. One word, not two. On my YouTube channel, it's a lot of different like take lessons on different facets of life and society, as well as promoting masculinity again, since society keeps trying to drop that down overall, as well as a vast amount of Amazon information that I teach on there. Um, any comments that I get on my Amazon videos or the other videos, I try to get back um, within a reasonable time, definitely within like 30 to an hour if I'm awake anyway, um, as well as the real world. Real world, I'm normally on there much more than any other platform really. So yeah, that's about the only two that really matter.
Great. So I will add links to all of those in the description to the listener. Do check those out. And again, thank you very much for your time, Michael. And I wish you all
Thank
the
you.
best.
Have
Bye.
yourself a great day, bud.